Welcome to the U.S. Iran getting ready to be at war again cast. Day number 20 in the current U.S. campaign and day number 154 since the Donald Trump administration and the Benjamin Netanyahu administration launched their major attack against Iran on February 28th. We have been at 154 days of near nonstop conflict, except for there was a little period of, I wouldn't call it peace, I would call it negotiated combat.
An oil break. An oil break.
An oil break. All right. Well, let me introduce our co-host, Jacob Carsbo's back from being daddy duty, full-time daddy duty, taking care of his family, which Wajeeh and I have no chance to do, right? We've got to fill in there. So Jacob Carsbo, Danish intelligence officer extraordinaire, and Wajeeh, the flaming gay lion from Minneapolis, Minnesota, geopolitical expert and expert on the Middle East and particularly the Gulf states. And then now, since we've been at this for 154 non-stop days, we are all becoming pretty expert in figuring out whether Donald Trump is bullshitting us or whether he's just lost his mind. And the problem is both can apply at the exact same time. And I am glad to see all the people. Hey, Funky Coriander, that's my buddy in Paris. He has helped me out a lot.
Paris.
Yeah, Didier. Salut, Didier. So good morning to all of you who are here. Also from Paris, we should see my buddy Richard. So there is a lot to discuss. And yesterday we had masses to discuss. Particularly, you saw we did a special program on the incident that was going on in Ceuta, Spain, where 60,000 Moroccans stormed the city of Ceuta. It's not really a city. It's more of a town. It has 83,000 inhabitants, so I guess that's a city. But massive campaign. That has since been turned around. The Spanish government sent in Spanish Army, Spanish Marines. Of that 60,000, almost all of them have left the city. And the question on the table was that we discussed yesterday, myself and Dexter Ingram, former director of the Global War Against ISIS and Global Extremism, whose family is from Morocco. His wife's family is Moroccan.
That's why he has a Moroccan dagger.
Yeah, of course. That's why he had a Moroccan dagger. He said he spent 90% of his time in the campaign against ISIS coordinating from Morocco. The Arab states like to go to Morocco. So he was a real expert on that. That was very helpful. Massive program, though. I mean, we talked about Egypt and Ceuta as outliers in the entirety of this giant intelligence process we have been watching on a day-to-day basis. So just keep your eyes on those. All right. Before we go any further, Wajeeh, can you please check the price of oil? I'm hearing some crazy things from oil. By the way, I was contacted by Mr. Global. Mr. Global wants me to go on his show, and I have invited him on this show. So I'm kicking one of your asses off. No, we're probably going to do a special with Mr. Global to talk about. We talk about the intelligence aspects of this. He understands the trade and the flow of oil aspect of this, whereas we can only see the political significance of events. He understands how the money and the trade aspects of this is going. Weird. Fucking oil is so weird, right? And this is one of the things that he said today. He goes, they are trading completely on faith in Donald Trump, and the price of oil is nowhere near where it should be. Look at this. Brent North Sea crude down 87, and that's up $1. Donald Trump just threatened to wipe out every power plant in Iran, and WTI is at 84. It was just at 90 a couple of days ago. So he's right. The oil market is betting on faith, not on data. And if any of you seen the movie The Big Short, which was about the 2008 economic collapse, with which trading house was it? But how the analyst, who was an actual former rocket scientist, figured out that their debt to related to their income was zero. It was negative, and that the housing market collapsed. They had bought in all that fake bad debt. Bad debt. I remember back in the day listening to radio programs before I moved to Abu Dhabi in 2006, where they were coming out and saying, hey, we will give you a home equity loan for up to 300% of the value of your home. And all they could get was the certificate of your home. So if my house in DC back at that time was worth 500,000, they would have loaned me 1.5 million to get a mortgage. But if I had not paid it, all they could get is the asset that's worth 500,000. They would lose $1 million. And apparently this junk mortgages were everywhere. That's what the movie The Big Short is about. Go watch that. If you want to see what a economic boardroom of a company that is about to close, wasn't it Lehman Brothers? I think it might have been Lehman Brothers. About to go under. Sorry? Bear Stearns? Is that what it was? Yeah, but the way that they looked at it was the only way for this company to survive is to fucking lie to everyone we have ever done business with, sell them junk, abandon ship in the market, and hope we get out of this alive. That movie was as riveting as any war movie I've ever seen. Because it's the other side of what Jacob and I did for a living. It's like, oh, you're the guys we're protecting. We're giving this information to you so that you don't fuck up in the market. That was a massive fuck up. Mr. Global and other real energy traders, oil traders are saying we are coming into the same situation, only with the fact that there's no oil in the global reserve. And so unlike that, you can't just sell your way out of it. You would have to start selling at $200, $300 a barrel to recoup any of your losses here. So if you guys haven't seen The Big Short, go watch that movie. I've seen a couple
some
of
oil because it's cheap. It'll go up sometime.
Buy some oil, yeah. Oh, by Monday. That's way too much adventure for me. I do not deal in any stocks. I have no investments in stocks whatsoever or Bitcoin, right? I invest in lead. Believe it or not, I have a gun collection. It's gone up 4 times its value since 2020. 4 times its value. And there are people out there that would murder for some of the collectible firearms that I have. But here's the kicker. The only people that can afford to buy are the richest people in the United States, right? The rich. They'll buy anything at this point. $50,000 for a rifle? Okay, no problem. But average Joe, they can't even buy an AR-15 anymore. Back in the old days, you could buy one for $1,500, But if you want one of quality, it's going to cost you $4,000 or $5,000 now. Crazy. And that's what's happening in global trade today. It's insane. Actually, let me move my head up so that I'm equal with the guys here. There you go. All right. Okay, so the oil market is obviously still snorting crack cocaine and crystal meth and huffing paint and doing heroin all at the same time. Hopium. Shitloads of hopium going on there. Okay, let's go to the significant acts. There were no real significant penetrations yesterday. Spectacular penetrations. There were a couple of penetrations, but
they're only spectacular if you know there are significant air defense assets in the area.
Yes, and
the definition here. If it's just shoot and go, it's not a spectacular.
It's not a spectacular.
It's
way too easy. It's way too easy. It's only the hard targets.
What do you say? An attempted penetration.
Well, the Kuwaiti military said they have engaged and destroyed drones fired
Right.
into the country's
Right.
airspace
Yeah.
today.
That is so low on my list today. It's the last item.
Operation Wear Protection, I'm seeing here.
Yeah,
So one of our
Operation.
view.
There we go.
Wear
This is
Protection.
why we have the chat. People, if you're not a paid subscriber, you are missing the best part of this show, which is the stuff that is scrolling. Freedom lettuce, which is scrolling on the right. Look at this. Nancy Byman, Operation Ejectile Dysfunction.
No.
Where are you guys coming up with this? There are points this week I've had to turn the chat off because I couldn't talk because of all the things. Somebody's talking about a failed penetration. By the way, in the U.S. Navy, there are rules against activities that in the age of sail were known as sodomy. And one of this is an actual literal line from U.S. Navy regulations with regards to, acts of sodomy. And one of the lines that they say is, an act of sodomy is said to have occurred even though penetration, however slight, may or may not have been achieved. And you're like, however slight, one of the funniest lines. So when I went through Chiefs initiation, the phrase, however slight, was the way that we would describe attempting something, right? So let's talk about the significant activities of the day. One on top of the table, we cannot ignore this. I did an hour on Mario Nawafal's show yesterday. I did bunches of other interviews. Donald Trump yesterday threatened Iran, said that he had completed a 2-week battle plan review that was presented at Camp David yesterday. How do we know this is real? At about 5:00 yesterday afternoon, as Mario's show was starting, we got all of these press reports. New York Times, Washington Post, and then, of course, we had to confirm it with
NBC,
Axios. Barak Ravid came out, and they all said the exact same thing. So you know what it was. They finished the meeting, and they were like, everybody call your media contacts. And they said, Donald Trump has just finished a review, and that if the Iranians do not come back to the negotiating table this weekend, the United States will carry out a very, very hard strike against Iran. They will launch a massive combined air campaign with Israel to devastate the entirety of the Iranian economy. And the target set will be all Iranian power plants, all Iranian oil infrastructure, any Iranian energy infrastructure will be hit and destroyed, which we have talked about well across the length of this war, is a war crime. When you say you are going to wipe out the entirety of a nation's power, energy infrastructure in order to punish the population because the politicians will not come back and negotiate with you to give you some concession. That is collective punishment. That is a war crime. That does not constitute degrading the combat capabilities of the armed forces. The armed forces, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell y'all straight, has generators. Okay. We literally build our armies around generators because we expect to be in austere wartime environments without any power. So we bring our own power. We build a giant space mountain complex deep down into the mountains with 20 ballistic missile launch tubes and 600 ballistic missiles in there. Yeah, we bring a shitload of generators down while we're at it. And backhoes and excavators so we can dig ourselves out. So for those who believe that, this is some military objective, you are living on a distant planet. That is ridiculous because carrying this out is literally Donald Trump threatening the nation of Iran, technically, with punishing every person in its country, and then essentially saying, we will destroy your present and future livelihood in Iran by going after energy infrastructure.
And just for the sake of our listeners here, the difference, if people say, but what about the Ukrainians? What are they doing in Crimea? Crimea is occupied territory. This is sovereign Ukrainian territory. And the Russians who want electricity can go back to Russia. It's quite easy. They can just cross the bridge, go home.
It's
where you belong.
Ukraine. It's Ukraine damaging energy infrastructure that supports the Russian armed forces. Any power plant in Crimea connects to the Russian military because the whole Crimea is Russian military occupied by occupying troops and civilians who came there and seized other people's property. Again, the Ukrainians have allowed all outgoing traffic from Crimea unmolested, right? If you are a fuel truck coming down, you're getting zapped. If you're an ammo truck coming down, you're getting zapped. If you are setting up foodstuffs and selling, cookies around the armed forces headquarters in Sevastopol, you might want to move a couple of blocks away because you're going to get zapped. So this is different from let's wipe out every power plant in Russia, which is essentially what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
Okay, and Wajeeh, what do you think about the threat of wiping out all of Iran's infrastructure?
I think it just shows how desperate the Trump administration is. That's what's being said in the streets in Arab and Iranian streets at the moment. The Trump administration, and I don't think they're far away from the truth. When you are very low on defense missiles and you don't listen to your top strategists and they're not even in the room, what you end up doing is you continue to hit rocks and you say that we are doing, amazing penetration. But in reality, you are just wasting and cannibalizing your own military resources. And my fear is that we would use our top soldiers to be put on the ground. And that would be the last thing we would want to do because you train these soldiers for very, very, very special missions, and sacrificing them is literally degrading what makes the U.S. military so great. Like they spend millions, if not hundreds of millions, on these soldiers from training to training, from equipment. And if we go on the ground, whether it's having people on the ground in Yemen, having people on the ground on in any of the Iranian islands, having people on the ground in Syria, having people on the ground in Lebanon, having people ground in Iraq, any of that is not a good idea. Like we said, this is literally turning into Vietnam. This is literally turning into Afghanistan. No one is like saying that because they don't want it to happen. But if you're looking at what like the what happens behind closed doors in decision making, it is exactly what happened in Vietnam. Small decisions. Oh, it's nothing big. We'll just do small scrimmage here, small skirmish there. We're doing bombardment now, but then they're considering to like take out the whole infrastructure in Yemen and Iran. But that is the perfect excuse that Iran needs to demolish their neighboring country.
Yeah. And they are threatening to do it. As a matter of fact, I'm just getting up a chart here. Here it is. That's the chart, and I'll see if I can display this.
Let me just add.
Go ahead.
Let me just add. We've also heard this before. There seems to be, this belief in the Trump administration that if you threaten that somehow the Iranians will come and say, let's do a deal. And that's just fantasy. It's not based on any evidence whatsoever, and it
Right.
won't happen. And then all the other times we've seen Trump chicken out. And
Yep.
let's see this time. We don't know.
I
But
mean,
it's
it's
just
quite
an
possible.
insane threat to make.
It's an insane threat, but so was, I'm going to wipe out your civilization. Praise be to
Yeah,
Allah.
yeah, exactly.
Right? These are crazy talk and insulting. However, he's taking this to the edge, and you want to talk about edge lording, right? Here is Trump has threatened to wipe out all their infrastructure. Well, Iran has something to say about that. This chart right here, which I'm going to put up in the chat so that you guys can see it. This is all the targets Iran has threatened. Here's what they have threatened. The Upper Zaykum oil field in the United Arab Emirates, the Ruwais oil field in the United Arab Emirates. Surprisingly, they did not put down the Baraka nuclear power plant. They said they're going after your oil fields. Yeah. North Field, off of Qatar, Ras Laffan, Qatar's last existing liquid natural gas facilities. Bahrain's Ma'amul facility, the Citra oil refinery by Bapco. Saudi Arabia, they have threatened the Ghawar oil field, which is near Riyadh, and the Khurais oil field, which is south of Riyadh. In Iraq, the Burgan oil field in Bubiyan Island. And they would hit off of Haifa. I talked about this place yesterday, the Leviathan oil natural gas field, which is off Ras Lanuf, not Ras Lanuf, that's Libya. No. It's off. I was just there last year. Anyway, it's north of Haifa, right? Rosh Hanikra. There's a massive gas field and platforms out there. Rosh Hanikra, and down in the bottom, I talked about this. This is the Tamar field near Ashdod, and between Ashdod and Ashkelon. I'm a little surprised they didn't threaten the gas fields off of Gaza that the Israelis have been operating. But hey, so Iran says they're going to target those things. And the beautiful thing about it is most of those places are outside the parameters of Patriot missile batteries. So, you're sitting waiting for Haifa and Tel Aviv to get hit. These things keep flying over, and then they come down in what you think is the ocean, but are actually gas oil facts. Not only that, Hezbollah has the capacity to bombard those facilities with regular old battlefield rockets. So this is not an idle threat that the Iranians have said they will just devastate the Gulf states and Israel's oil and natural gas inventory. But somebody wants to send me a coffee cup from Ontario. Put it in the chat on there if you want to send me a coffee cup, and I'll take a coffee. I might even just roll through Ontario and go get it. Right, Toronto. You never know. It's like, where my cup at? I'm here. Where's my cup at? I'm at the
I want my cup, man.
Down at the Tim Hortons. What do you mean there's 50 Tim Hortons? So the United States has made this threat. The purpose of it is to get Iran to negotiate. I'll kill your wife and kids unless you come to the negotiating table. This is just madness. The comprehensive war plan is just awaiting Trump's no-go decision. But as you see, these guys clearly not von Clausewitz fans of or Sun Tzu's plans of keeping your secret. They just come out and say, we're going to wipe you out unless you accept all these negotiation points, starting with the MOU again. It's just desperate. The United States embassies around the Middle East, starting with the one in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, has warned American citizens to be on guarded watch and, if possible, to leave the areas of Middle East conflicts. On the other hand, we talked about this. Iran has issued that list of oil industry and energy targets that they are going to designate. Now, I find it interesting that they didn't choose any power plants. Do you remember the big list they had with the satellite imagery in March, where they were like, we're going to hit that power plant, we're going to hit that power plant, we're going to hit that nuclear reactor, we're going to hit that power plant. I find it fascinating that the Iranians are got to admit, they are playing smart. If there's going to be an escalation, they're going to hurt your strategic income, right? They're not going to make Dubai go black. That would be very easy to do. All they have to do is hit the Jebel Ali generating field down there, like 10 power plants in a row, and just boom, the city would go out. There's no backup. The only backup generators in that city are for camping out in the desert so that you can party with lights off the car. They don't have anything in their villas or their houses. So I find it very smart that Iran has threatened their livelihood and not their energy infrastructure so that they would actually have the upper hand in the moral game for fighting the United States. Interesting. What is the rest? Oh, they said Barack Ravid's statement and another statement said that another purpose of the United States-Israeli plan, now tell me if you've heard this before, it's not like this hasn't happened, is to create a situation where the power plants and all the energy going out would give any opposition a chance to foment unrest.
Good luck. Good
Bitch,
luck.
the sun comes up at 5.
That is what happens when you're desperate. Your allies don't stand up with you, and you hope. This is exactly the difference between. Let me put this into perspective, okay? Dubai wants to make a difference in their country. They opened the country up. They said, come invest in our country. We have tax-free. Saudi Arabia does the exact opposite. Saudi Arabia goes, oh, we have our own project. Come invest in us. No one came to invest in Saudi projects because it's all the Saudi projects. It was never the rest of the world projects. Meanwhile, Dubai opened their country for the rest of the world to come in. This is exactly what's happening here. If the United States wanted to win a war like this, they would have leaned on their NATO allies. They would have leaned on world coalition. They would have done something like passing it through the UN first, lobbied heavily on getting the UN to pass a resolution so they can go to war. So they could have. They didn't do their homework when they went to this war. So they're finding themselves in a situation where, like, they're forced to create situations where other parties in the ground have to react to say, oh, maybe it's an opportunity for me to be part of this revolution. Meanwhile, everyone on the ground at this point understands they're full of shit. No one wants to be a part of this.
The big short in Gulf oil is coming. Okay, when people start abandoning ship, if those oil fields get hit, it's a good thing that the Emiratis, the Qataris, the Saudis diversified their resources. Remember that story I told you back in 2008 when I met the wallet of the United Arab Emirates? That guy was like, we're shutting off all purchases in this country other than the projects we fund from our Mubadala, Aldar. If it's not from those companies, we're not spending another fucking dime in this country. We will live off the interest income of our investments overseas. They did that for 5 years. But in the meantime, they shifted to solar, nuclear power, anything so that they could sell oil and gas to the West and minimize the use of oil and gas for their own energy generation. That's pretty smart. However, this time there will be no oil sales. Because Fujairah is going to get it. Let me check that map. I got to check that map. Was Fujairah on there? No, it wasn't. That's a little smart. That's interesting. That's like, we're going to blow up the source, but we're not going to blow up your one most critical facility. We could. And that's what Mr. Global is like terrified of. Blow up Fujairah. That's the door is shut to the Strait of to the Persian Gulf.
Is that nowadays another 4 million, 5 million barrels a day?
Yeah, but from the Emirates, from the Habshan Fujairah pipeline.
That goes this.
All right. Well, in other news, not like anything else is going on. What next? Okay. In the Strait of Hormuz, the IRGC has attacked 2 tankers, both of whom were off of Corsican in Oman. There was 5, count them, 5 tankers crossed the Strait of Hormuz yesterday, and all of them used the IRGC traffic separation scheme, with one exception. One ship called the Minoan Glory tried to sneak in under U.S. Navy guidance, which means there had to have been communications between the U.S. Navy and that ship, and the Iranians heard it. They not only heard it, they got on the radio and warned them, Minoan Glory, this is Sepah Navy. Turn back or we will destroy you.
Turn back.
He said, turn back or we will destroy you. And finally goes, this is your last warning. You are going to be destroyed. Ship was like, let me see, get destroyed or turn back. All right, I'll turn it back. And he said, I'm watching your movements closely. Telling you, the Iranians know their game, but it's only 20 nautical miles. And this thing wasn't even at the peak of the Musandam Peninsula. It was like on the west side, approaching it. So the Iran, yep, right, we're to the left side, other side.
Other side. But
There
there
you
was
go.
one on this side as well.
No. This one was not attacked. 2 were attacked off Corsican, and the other one was turned back off Ras Al Khaimah on the Persian Gulf side.
Yeah,
that was the one. Let me see. The ships that were hit were the merchant vessel bulk carrier. No, that's the Minoan Glory, was a merchant bulk carrier with a Liberian flag. Qatar had a liquid natural gas tanker hit in the Western Strait of Hormuz. Its name was the Gaslog Shanghai. Okay. And then, of course, Kuwait got hit by drone attacks for 2 days in a row. That's the least of what went on.
Yeah.
Was that Kuwait was hit, by drone attack. Nothing important went on other than that. Yeah.
And Kuwait, yeah. And did you talk about yesterday the closure of the U.S. Or the retreat from Erbil?
No. And as a matter of fact, here are where the current U.S. forces retreats are being carried out. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Al Udeid Air Base, U.S. Central Command forward, is empty. There are no aircraft and minimal personnel in Doha, Qatar right now. They've essentially abandoned the base.
They made it official that they will move their CENTERCOM from Doha to Israel.
I don't think I made it official, but the talk has been up there. So, and that was my prediction in March. I was like, they're going to leave Udeid. They love Uvda base so much. Uvda was empty. It has 80 hardened aircraft shelters on that base. And then Delta Force and all these other special operations mission units moved there. And it's under the Jordanian and Israeli umbrella. And I was like, they're moving to Uvda. And about 2 weeks ago, they talked about it. Bahrain, U.S. Navy Central Command has moved to Norfolk, Virginia, using a data linking TV screens. That base is devastated. Now we are hearing that the U.S. Army is starting to clear out of Camp Bueling in Kuwait, and that U.S. Air Force assets are leaving Ali Al Salam Air Base in Kuwait. And the U.S. logistics forces at Port Al-Shuaibah in Kuwait, the unit that got wiped out, got the first 6 people killed in this war, are already left. And that they are leaving. Camp Bueling was U.S. Army Central Command forward, their forwardmost command post. Again, they have moved to Muwafaq al-Salti, which we find out is just as unsafe as it is in Kuwait. So Iran has done something I never thought I'd see in my entire life. They have forced the United States to leave most Gulf states. The only bases that are still in operation are Al Dhafra and the bases in Saudi Arabia, Prince Sultan Air Base, and I think there's a King Khalid Air Base. But the rest of the Gulf states are finding U.S. assets a liability. Although France
The rest
still
of the
operates
Gulf
from them.
states do not have a nuclear umbrella protection from Pakistan.
Yeah, but
Pakistan
that's not
had to come in and threaten Iran several times.
not
The,
the issue
the,
anymore. That's not the issue
the
anymore.
I
Pakistan can
know,
threaten
but
nukes all they want, but this is a conventional war, and the Iranians are looking strictly at the U.S. And the Gulf states are quietly acquiescing. Also, the U.S. Army just cannot take it. Trump is a real chicken, right? Anybody else would have moved shitloads of assets up there to make sure that these things are not getting hit. We've lost so many assets. Everything's retracting back to Jordan and Israel.
Yeah.
U.S. Navy, by the way, pushed back to fucking Sigonella, Sicily, an island to the southwest of the tip of the boot of Italy. That's where we
and
have
you
to
might be
fly
getting
our
kicked out of
reconnaissance missiles
Jordan
from.
soon. You might be getting kicked out of Jordan soon as well.
It's very true. It's very possible, right? Tower 22 and Muafaqa
Yeah.
Saldi.
And
We could
then
be.
we have Iraq.
Oh, yeah, there's that. So Erbil. Yeah, the U.S. Army's pulling out of Erbil.
Yeah.
Right? Can't take
Kurdistan.
it. Can't take the heat. When you're fucking 25 kilometers from the Iranian border, and they're not even using battlefield rockets on you. They're just using a Shaheed here, a Shaheed there. And here's the problem with it. If you guys have been to Erbil or Suleimania, there's hills off to the east, right?
Yeah.
On the
It's
Iranian border. So those
mountainous.
little, the mountains go like this and go brrr. And when it comes down off that mountain, they're already there. They'll start falling on your
Yeah.
head. So the mountains actually are part of your protection. And the U.S. Army is only protecting Erbil Airport Complex and the Ain Kawa forward base up
Yeah.
there. Apparently not anymore. We are leaving, to quote the movie Aliens. Okay, we're gonna. I guess they're gonna go to orbit, and nuke it from space. I don't know. So, the U.S. armed forces are in retreat across the entire Middle East right now. Thank you, Donald Trump, doing exactly what you did to us in Afghanistan. All right. Anything else? God Almighty! Before we get to questions.
But again, Malcolm, like you said, it's something you would never have imagined.
Never.
That is how crazy this whole war has been, and the whole thinking behind it. It makes something like that. A strategic defeat in the Gulf, completely, where you had massive assets, massive bases, etc. You could project forces. It's gone.
Trump
I
was
can't.
going to.
I think it's really hard to imagine because the conception was the presence of the U.S. bases was supposedly a way to protect for these Gulf states to protect themselves from Iran and from other invaders. But once that that promise is shown as just a dream, that all shatters, right? Like
Yeah.
your hegemony is as just as big as your prestige and as big as you can show.
Yeah.
Once you're thrown, once your weapon is not dull and no longer hurts, then you're basically lost your edge. And I'm very surprised to say this, but everyone that believed that the United States is the strongest country in the world militarily and that won't be defeated. Well, I guess this shows if you use or misuse your own military and you have your own corruption, even if you're the strongest military in the world, you will fail. That's just what it is.
Yeah. By the way, somebody says Malcolm is tired of all this BS. Yes, Stefan, I'm tired of all this bullshit. This is just we could be here. I'm afraid to say it, people. We could be here 6 months from now.
Yeah.
We could be here at the 1-year anniversary of this
Yeah.
war. No questions asked. Let's go to some questions that have come in on the Substack chat from Ken Merdioglu. Hello from Istanbul, Turkey. You owe me Turkish delight. Without the nuts. Without the nuts. Okay, just I want it in lime, I want it in rose water, and I want it in lemon. Now, come just if you're in Istanbul, meet me at the bazaar at the souk, and we're in the Grand Bazaar of Istanbul. Love
Yes,
going there. We'll be knocking back
yes.
some. We'll be knocking back some Turkish hilwas, right? Mabsuts, and it'll be great. Here's his comments. He says he always follows my podcast mainly from YouTube because Substack cuts in and out. Why China and especially Russia do not help Iran, their fellow BRICS members,
Yeah.
more, especially to replace the more advanced ballistic or anti-ship missiles launched so far, or aircraft or naval vessels Iran lost at the beginning of the war. Because they don't have to. Iran's beating our ass without an air force and without a navy. They're managing to close the waters of the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
Jacob.
no, no, no. Go
And
ahead, Jacob.
and you know the Russians, you know, don't have the strength to do it. You know, they're occupied in Ukraine. They have arms transfers, vice versa with Iran, but really they don't have the strength to do it. And the Chinese are playing for time because they know there is a huge power vacuum erupting in the Gulf and in the Middle East in general, and they're waiting to capitalize. As we were saying, the U.S. is on its way out of the whole Gulf. Everyone knows the Gulf countries absolutely hate the Islamic Republic of Iran and distrust them and despise them. So, you know, the Chinese can move in and play, you know, the big brother and try to settle things. And
Uh,
I'm afraid that's what's going to happen.
they're providing something way more important than any missile or any drone. They're providing real-time satellite update. They're providing real-time
Yes,
locations of
much more
an
valuable.
intelligence. Way more valuable than any fuel, way more valuable than money, way more valuable because that makes U.S. military truly vulnerable for all of these Iranian attacks. Iran has used their cheapest missiles, and I said this at the beginning of the war. Iran will waste its cheap missiles in the beginning to waste all of the THAAD and Patriot missiles that the U.S. have. Now that they have wasted all of it, they're using their more advanced missiles so they can hit more precise targets, killing more Americans, killing more Israelis, killing more soldiers, making a bigger damage. The intelligence that they receive from the Russians and the Chinese is really important. And no, Russia and China was still trying to figure out ways to smuggle things into Iran through the Caspian Sea and other means. So, like, that is also true. Like, that hasn't stopped.
Okay. I have to, in case you guys wondering what I was laughing uncontrollably about a minute ago, is something popped up in the chat, and somebody
Again.
said the Iranians should use blue chews so that their missiles would get maximum penetration. Where do you people come up with this stuff? There's some funny ass shit in the chat. I'm sorry. I've only just realized because normally I'm talking and then but now in the last couple of weeks I started looking off to the side. I'm like, damn, there's some good jokes over there. All right, let's go to the next question, and we will try to keep this brief because Jacob has a hard time out on this. Somebody, by the way, sent me a photograph of meals ready to eat menu number 2 that we all need, which is the Scotch and cigars.
Oh my God.
Mari. I haven't seen that. That must be menu X-ray. Let me see. Is there any forensic information on the drones that struck the ship in the Egyptian port in Damietta? No, and believe me, I'm looking for it. I had this big debate yesterday that about whether it was an Iranian drone or was it a local guy that could have been doing it for the Iranians. Even the Iranians know better than to try to blow up a 1 kiloton atomic bomb. That's what essentially a LNG tanker would explode like. That's I don't know. I'm going to go with local extremists who were just out to humiliate the government of Egypt. Way too risky. Could have just sunk a ship in the Suez Canal for more effect.
And if any of you didn't watch our Red Team analysis on this on Thursday afternoon, go watch it.
Go back and watch it.
There are competing hypotheses out there. And, to tell you the truth, we don't know. You can only line up the arguments, and then we'll have to wait and see.
Okay, but okay. David says, is it true Mujtaba Khamenei sent a message to the Pakistanis that gave a deadline of August 6th for the U.S. to accept the terms of the original 14-point MOU, or they would be forced out of the region? Well, we're pretty much forced out of the region now. I hadn't heard that report. Have any of you? If we're going to go back and check it, if we will, we'll come back later in the week. Malcolm, do you know what the morale of the U.S. military is? No, you know what? I'm going to tell you all something straight. And as horrible as it sounds, when we're out blowing up shit, we enjoy it. We don't complain, right? Medals and ribbons. This war is going to give like 6 ribbons for everybody. There will be the, defense of the Gulf states ribbon. There will be the Strait of Hormuz reopening ribbon. There will be the Project Freedom ribbon. There will be the Epic Fury 1 ribbon, Epic Fury 2 ribbon. It's bullshit. Okay. I mean, just way too much, ribbons and campaign medals for the things that are going on here. Trump he just introduced, did you hear this? The defense of the U.S. border ribbon.
Oh my God.
I shit you.
Beautiful. But on, Malcolm, I'll just say one thing, because we have seen a bit of evidence about, a lower morale due to the lack of air defense after what happened at Muwafaq al-Salti, and also the strikes in Kuwait especially. And at Muwafaq al-Salti, we've seen, leaks of videos from the inside that is actually, a violation of OPSEC procedures. But because soldiers are frustrated that they aren't taken care of properly. So there is some evidence, that decisions are being made where a lot of soldiers are like, what's going on? I mean, our lives are at stake here.
Well, I mean, especially when you're getting bombarded, you're like, what the fuck? I thought these Iraqis sucked ass, and I thought that we were kick ass and take names. Yeah. Guess what, bitches? The enemy gets a vote. All right. And that's why I was such a hard ass during Desert Storm. Good God. I was ruthless in my division. I was like, the fuck is your life jacket? Why? We're at battle stations. Where's your life jacket? Oh, Chief, I got to sit on the terminal. I can't. It's like, you're aware we can sink, right? And guess what? The ship I was on hit a mine. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Chief Nance was right. We're sinking. Yeah, okay. Yeah, a little preparation does not hurt. But you have to believe your enemy has the capacity to touch you. And if you think you're invincible, someone's going to prove you wrong. Yeah, someone's going to prove you wrong.
And then listen to Pete Hegseth, et cetera, and you do the maths, right?
Don't ever listen to Pete Hegseth.
No, right, but guys, what I mean, how this affects this feeling of invincibility, and we're the best, and we're the greatest military, and all that bullshit. Because that is what undermines, real proper procedures and respect, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So, well, tell you what, we're going to end about 10 minutes early, because I know we all have things to do today. And if Trump goes through with his promise, by 5 p.m. this afternoon, Eastern time, the United States should be in a massive, insanely large air campaign. If that happens, I will do a special Substack live, and we will watch and see what gets hit, how it gets hit, where it gets hit. If we're lucky, this will go on, and then he'll come up Monday morning and do a full taco and say, Iran called me, Mujtaba al-Khamenei himself called me,
They
and
want
he
to
said, Mr.
negotiate.
Trump, please, please, Mr. Trump, don't devastate my economy. We have no food here. We have no water here. We are at the mercy of the magnificent Donald Trump. With tears in my eyes, please, we surrender. Unconditional surrender, Mr. Trump. I will give you a donation to Mar-a-Lago, to your arch and your ballroom. You'll be hearing that bullshit from the White House. I'm sorry to say it. I have some bad news. The White House lies. And I'm starting to even, if you don't hear it from Admiral Cooper himself or General Kane himself, Central Command, what do you call it? PAO, the Public Affairs Office, they lie also. I do not believe the first statement from U.S. Central Command on anything now.
I mean,
Because we've caught
just
them in multiple lies. That's
people
mind-boggling, and I would say that.
go and look at the press releases they make on the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it's like we control it. The Iranians are lying.
Every day they're out there. The Strait of Hormuz is open and under U.S. Navy control.
Yeah.
Really? I don't see any U.S. Navy ships going back and forth for port visits to Dubai. Nothing. Y'all sitting out there pulling circles in the Northern Indian Ocean. And I have pulled those circles. And there is nothing worse than going out for months at a time without a port visit, not even to the Seychelles. All right, guys, thanks for coming today. If you are watching this on YouTube, you are watching the recording of the Black Man Spy Live podcast. It is held every morning at 9 a.m. on Substack at malcolmnance.substack.com. Please come over. If you would like to be part of the family, to get into these cool, hilarious chats, that is a paid subscriber only feature. Please join malcolmnance.substack.com and become a paid subscriber. It's only $7. Look, if you got to pay somebody some money to get something that's going to save and affect your life, this is the place to do it, right? So, and of course, you can do that. I'm going to make a quick announcement. It will come up soon. I have a work of fiction. As you all know, my memoir just came out. That's not the fiction. I have my first work of fiction. I wrote it over 5 years. I actually wrote it 5 years ago, started it again last summer with my literary agent, and I am going to be looking for guest readers of this book. And the problem is I got to cut it down like 25 to 30,000 words. So I'm going to be choosing people who are interested in that. I'll put it up in the post, who are paid subscribers, who we may have another tier, but I'm going to be looking for people who are interested in reading books. And it is a geopolitical spy thriller that is hilarious. I read some to watch the other day. He was laughing his ass off. The funny part about it is it's not just funny. Everything in it that's cultural and linguistic and espionage related is true. It's all true. Only a little bit of the story is fiction, but the characters are based on real people, including there's a character based on myself. And the stupid things that are said in there are so hilarious. So every once in a while, I took like a month off from editing it because I needed to clear my head, and I read it a chapter the other day, and I was like, "Holy shit! This book makes slow horses look lame, because slow horses, the scenarios are all really bad, but the stories are hilarious, and the characters in slow horses are very, very well developed. I think this is a better but hey, I'm biased. So you readers, keep looking out for that. It'll come up in the chat. For the rest of use twos, I will see you all tomorrow. Let me know if you've got family events. Most likely we'll be at war this afternoon, so we'll get back there. Somebody says, what do I mean by guest reader? I need people who like to read, who read spy fiction, geopolitical fiction. I own everything Tom Clancy owned before he died. Everything after he died is trash. And so I'm trying to get people's opinions about, to read through the book and then go, hey, I think you can afford to lose these 2 chapters or this chapter or there, or cut this down. Because I do need to, apparently, from my literary agent says that people have very short reading attention spans these days. And that my memoir was 177,000 pages of words. It had to be cut down to 125 maximum, because they say people just air out these days. So that's what I'm talking about. So we'll get back onto that. And I'm glad you guys, if you're watching it on YouTube, you can come over to Substack, subscribe, and you can take part in that too. Other than that, I will see you all at the beginning or the end of the next war, or at the beginning of the taco. So have a nice day. Don't watch the news. Come back later. All right? Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye. Beep, boop, boop. There you go.